Today I'm going to be doing a reading roundup for 2024. Hello everyone, my name is Harmony, and if you're new to my channel, welcome, or if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Today I'm going to do a reading roundup for the whole of 2024. Better late than never. This is about halfway through January as I record this. I think it's like the 14th of January, 13th, 14th, something like that. Yeah, this is going to be not so much a statistics-based overview, because there were some books last year that I read, but they were not on the story graph until I added them, or else they were there, but when I added them, I for some reason didn't rate them or didn't review them or whatever. That being said, I will tell you all the things that I've read. So my goal was 28 books for the year, and I'm very pleased to say that I exceeded that goal. So according to the story graph, my goal, my percentage of the goal, I guess you could say, that I reached was 118%. So I actually read 33 books. Well, I finished 33 books, and as I say, my goal had been 28. And of that, I read roughly 10,952 pages, and 18.13 hours of audio. So over 18 hours of audio. I say roughly because the page numbers don't always match up to the editions that I have, or they are, I don't know, they are the same editions, but for some reason they just don't. Somebody added them differently for whatever reason. And also some of the stuff that I've read didn't have page numbers in it for reasons that I don't know. Anyway, two of the books that I finished were things that I had started reading in 2023 but was very close to finishing, but didn't quite get finished. So I started out last year with finishing Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte and The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. Now, those were Jane Eyre, like I've probably mentioned before, I thought it was way too long for what it was. Yes, it described some interesting thought-provoking topics. Hello, Walter. Described some interesting and thought-provoking topics. Discussed would be a more accurate word. Either way, it was still way too long. And The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, I thought it, looking back, even at the time actually, I thought it was a bit far-fetched. Having said that though, there was another book that I did not finish. So I started reading in 2024. I started reading The Art of Invisibility by what's his name? Kevin Mitnick, I think it is. Don't quote me on that one. Hello, Autumn. But after a couple of chapters, I pretty much gave it up, thinking, yeah, this should be interesting because it's about online, like, privacy and security and that kind of thing. But I thought, yeah, this is not as interesting as I thought. So I did not finish that. And I don't know if my page count includes those pages that I read of that or not. Having said that though, other books that I did read, The Winter Ghosts by Kate Moss. I love that book. I would happily read more of her books. I actually did a review of that as well. Take a look in my playlist for that one, my book reviews playlist. The Man with No Face by Peter May. Interestingly written book, and yeah, again, Peter May, what can I say? Highly recommend. We Bought a Zoo by Benjamin Mee. That was very interesting, but again, long-winded. Mainly because it went a bit too in-depth about the financial issues, I thought, around the reopening of the zoo. Having said that though, he probably thought it was necessary to include, but that's okay. That is a film and a book. I can't remember if I included that in my book versus film playlist. I'll have to have a look on that one. If not, if you want me to do a book versus film on that one, let me know, and I will see what I can do. N is for Noose by Sue Grafton. It was fine. It existed, but not my favourite. Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. That one, for the most part, boring, but once it got into the semi-paranormal, semi-horror type bit, it was a bit more interesting. But then, in general, not that exciting, really. Not that horror striking. Having said that though, I know some people absolutely loved it. Right, next up we have the whole of the Gibson family series, uh, Salem Street, High Street, Ridge Hill, Hallam Square and Spinners Lake by Anna Jacobs. Great series, would highly recommend. Historical fiction set in Lancashire. Yeah, set in Lancashire in northern England in the first couple of decades or so of the Victorian era, and the decade or so just before the Victorian era as well. Yeah. So as I say, I would highly recommend that. Bridge to Terabithia by Catherine Patterson. It was great. I wasn't too keen on the ending of that book. The ending I thought was a bit hurried and a bit unrealistic in a way. If anyone wants me to review that one, no, I don't think I have reviewed that actually. Or if I have, I can't remember. But if anyone wants me to review Bridge to Terabithia, let me know. I might do that anyway, just cause. My Life, It's a Long Story by Willie Nelson. His autobiography, yeah, that was a really interesting read. And I learned a good few things about Willie Nelson that I didn't already know. And yes, it was long, and quite honestly I skipped over some of the song lyrics, but it was interesting to read about how he came up with some of the songs and people that he's worked with, and more about his personal life. You know, again, take a look at my review of that book if you would like to do so. The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. It existed. I personally was not as much of a fan of it as everyone else was, but that's okay, because you know what, if we all like the same things, it would be a really boring world. More Anna Jacobs, the Swan River Colony series. Farewell to Lancashire, Beyond the Sunset, and Destiny's Path, all, as I say, by Anna Jacobs. And that again was a great series set in the what would become known as the American Civil War period, but also the Victorian era as far as English history goes. So it's partly set in Lancashire, and then the series is also partially set in Australia and back to Lancashire and a little bit of Ireland as well. I don't know what autumn's issue is today. It was fine earlier. Okay. Autumn. Well, I don't know what autumn is shouting about. Would you like to say hello to everyone on YouTube, Autumn? Well, they definitely heard you now. Yes. Right. Thinking in Pictures by Temple Grandin. I'm gonna reread that at some point. Because of technology issues, it took me a while to read through that. But I read the expanded edition, which was published, I think, about 10 years or more after the original. And that, so yeah, I found that very interesting. About the so about how the author Temple Grandin sees the world in a very visual way. I'm going to reread that at some point, because rereading books has its uses. Strangers on a Train by Patricia Highsmith. As far as crime fiction goes, meh. It was more about the people involved than the actual crimes itself. It wasn't even really like your Agatha Christie books. Like, at least there they actually get on with whatever it is they're planning, whereas in Strangers on a Train, the characters, they spend, well, one spends more time stalking the other one than they do actually committing the crimes. There is some planning of it, which is fine, but overall pretty boring as far as crime fiction goes. Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. It's alright, but mainly focusing on the social elements of life at that time. It was written in, I think they call it the Regency period, that period of time that's at the very start of the 19th century. So yeah, it was a bit too social heavy for my liking. But having said that though, I know some people, again, absolutely love it, which is fine. What else? The Canterville Ghost by Oscar Wilde. Great book. I'd never read any of Oscar Wilde's books before, but yeah, great short story and highly amusing. So yeah, I would highly recommend that one because yeah, that's a lot of fun. I read that in what, a day. Uh, the Professor's House by Willa Cather. Yeah, pretty good book. Um, I did a review of that one already. I know I did. Uh, yeah, I found the middle section of that a lot more. Um, I enjoyed it more than the bits from the professor's point of view, or about the professor and his family. Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Yeah, I much prefer Emily's writing than Charlotte's writing. She gets to the point a lot more. And I like the way that that book was structured. So you've got your main character ish, but most of the story is told from another character's memory of observations, and therefore they become the main character instead. Anyway, I reviewed that one as well at the time, so I will not dwell on that one, although I could. A Shropshire Lad by A.E. Houseman or E.A. Houseman. I always get those letters the wrong way round. That was a book of poetry written, I think it was written in the Victorian era, kind of late Victorian. The issue I had with that book is that it was very hard to tell where one poem ended and another one started. But it was still good to read something different. Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. Oh yay, not. I did start out reading that earlier on in the year and then stopped it and then went back to it again. So I don't know if my pages that I read and then hit did not finish on will are also counting towards my page count on the story graph. But that being beside the point, the only thing I really got from that book was bad science, bad history, and basically how much there is that's essentially guesswork, and a reminder as to how little we really know. A lot of it is just guessing and assumptions. Because, as I've said in conversations previously, not on here but just in general life, things like carbon dating and various other methods only get you so far. But that was really long and really dragged out. So yeah, I would not recommend that one. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone and Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Yeah, I like the Harry Potter series. I listen to those on audio because I've read them so many times, and although I find the main character is a really stupid character, that's still nice to reread and re-listen to, just because. The Silent Tide by Rachel Hall. Yeah, pretty good book. I would probably read more of Rachel Hall's books. And that was set in London and Somerset, I think. No, not Somerset, Suffolk, sorry. And it's a combination of present day and slightly historical fiction. Interesting timeline, interesting way of laying out a book. Midland Ghosts and Hauntings, fantastic. Would highly recommend that one. I learned more about various bits and pieces. It was a very well researched book, so yeah, I would highly recommend that one. And that is not one that I'm giving away. It's on my shelf for rereading at some point. Noughts and Crosses by Ian Rankin. The first book in the Rebus series, the Detective Rebus series, or is it just called the Rebus series? I don't know. But yeah, it was fine, but I didn't think all that much of the main character. Personally, I thought he was a bit dim. Like, he doesn't even recognize the clues until they're literally somebody else adds them up and tells it to him. Having said that, though, I know some people absolutely love that series, which is also fine. Unsheltered by Barbara Kingsolver. Alright, that was, yeah, pretty good, but not not as interesting or as exciting as you know. It's another one of the contemporary plus historical timelines, but for over half the book it could have easily been two separate books, because the timelines really did not converge at all. Dead Simple by Peter James. That's the first book in the Detective Roy Grace series. I think as far as the storyline goes, it's a bit far-fetched. say the least. But having said that though, I think also the main character is well written. Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading more of that series, the Detective Roy Grace series by Peter James. So, because I didn't rate some of the books that I read last year, there's no point really in me going over the star ratings or the moods or pace or whatever it is. Having said that though, from what I did rate, there were a fair number of 5-star reviews that I gave. And I will say that my most read author was easily Anna Jacobs, because I read 8 of her books. Great writer. And there were also some authors that were new to me that I'd never read before. And at the time of recording this, I'm also about to finish What You're Looking For Is in the Library, translated into English from the Japanese. So I started that in late 2024, so I'm about to finish that. I've got less than 20 pages left. No, sorry, barely 12 or 13 pages left actually. And I'm also reading The Ascent of Money by Niall Ferguson, which is slow going but has its interesting points. Those are the two that I started in late 2024 anyway, and I've carried over into 2025. Well, that will be all for my reading roundup for now, but what do you guys think of these books, and how did you all do if you set reading goals? I look forward, as usual, to anyone leaving any comments, or if you like the video, feel free to like, subscribe to my channel, take a look in my previous reading roundup videos in this playlist, or you can take a look at my book reviews playlist if you want to, or share with your friends, and I'll see everyone in the next video.